Today it is a slightly more family-tamed area where we enjoy cafe latte and of course smabble along the sides of these canals. Can you all say smabble? Smabble, yeah. You just said open sandwich in Danish. And that is of course what we all enjoy on these canals. More about that later when we end the trip. But first, coming up on our left-hand side, the first architectural gem of this beautiful city. This is to your left, the Royal Playhouse of Copenhagen. This opened up in 2008, February of that year, with the iconic play from Shakespeare, Hamlet. Hamlet takes place in Denmark in the plot, and actually takes place in the northern castle of Helsingborg up in the north. It opened with the iconic lines, to be or not to be, as we all know, as we say in Denmark, 2 beers or not 2 beers. Not all the jokes are great. Now, on your right hand, you see this beautiful, majestic pyramid-like shapes over here. This sits on top of an artificial island we built 200 years ago. We called it Paper Island. In the 90s, we stored a bunch of paper there in warehouses for newspapers, hence the name. Then hipsters brought it up and did what hipsters do, and they made microbreweries and food halls, of course. Today, we kicked all the hipsters on the other side of the canal, as you can see, where you have a food market today, where you can go and enjoy on the other end of the bridge down here. But after being brought up and hipsters kicked out, you have the most exclusive real estate in the whole country on your right-hand side. These big pyramids, you too can own an apartment at the tip-top of Danish society for no less than 10 million euros. Wow, what a steal. So it sits on top of something we call Holme. Can you all say Holme? Holme is an artificial man-made island, which you just said in Danish. And we built all of these different islands for the reason that Copenhagen has one theme running through it throughout all time. And that is it burning down. Copenhagen burned down so many times that we decided to build our own artificial islands in the 1700s to store the 3rd largest fleet Europe had ever seen in here, which of course was made entirely of wood and had a tendency to burn the city down. Hence, we put them in here. This is one of the first Holme on our side, and it's the Opera Park. It is made in such a way that all the 4 seasons of Denmark is represented in the different vegetation planted on top. And it is also a parking garage for the structure that comes right next to it. This big building on your right hand is the Royal Opera House. The Opera House was built in 2005 and was a gift by a very important Danish man, A.P. Møller Mærsk. He's the man who gave us one of the biggest container shipping companies on earth, Mærsk. And he gave this to the Danish people in 2005 for $500 million. On the inside of this great building, you can find the reddish color behind the windows. Can you all see it? That's the main auditorium. It's shaped like a heart and it's spherical. The reason it's red is because it's clad in maple wood, the same type of wood you use to make string instruments. And in the same way, if you slap the side of the auditorium's walls, it will play a musical note, much like a violin would. Inside you find 14 stories, 5 of which are underground, and every single year the Americans come to Copenhagen and they jump off the roof into the water 25 meters down to sell Red Bull. Yeah, we call it, the Danes, as you might understand, the toaster. This country that we are moving towards now is, if you look on the horizon, there are no mountains. That is because this is the 2nd flattest country on Earth. Because you see, 15,000 years ago, during the ice ages, Norway and Sweden had a lot of mountains, and all of the ice went from there all the way down here, squishing us flat on a pancake. Which means, to date, we are the only Danish country without any mountains. And as you can imagine, we feel a certain type of way about that. So, ladies and gents, we did something about it, and on your right-hand side, on the horizon, over here, oozing into the atmosphere, you are going to be seeing something called Copenhagen, our very own man-made mountain. Yeah, 2017, this piece of architecture opened up, and on the very top of it, you can do anything you can do on any mountain in Scandinavia. You can ski all the way down it on artificial snow every day of the year. You can climb all the way up 83 meters on the side of the building, the tallest in all of Europe mountain climbing. And on the inside of this magnificent beast, you find a burning plant for making green energy. We burn 550,000 tons of trash every single year for houses, heating and electricity, 90,000 houses. We burn so much trash, we have to import trash from the Swedes, who apparently have got trash to spare. The navy, as you see represented on your right hand side, is in Denmark the oldest navy in the world. It goes all the way back to the Viking ages, over 1,000 years ago. And the different things we are going to be talking about is the ship over here with F352 written on it, the battleship. This is the battleship of Pederskram, which operated between 1966 and 1988. But most Danish people know it for what happened in 1982, when in a routine check of the buttons, the captain went boop 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 and shot a missile straight into a vacation home area, where unfortunately it destroyed 4 summer houses, but no one was hurt because it was winter. But the plot thickened a year later when we found out that one of those 4 summer houses belonged to the captain's ex-mother-in-law. Yeah, either a big coincidence or one of the greatest revenge plots in Danish history. The crane right next to Pederskram, you can see over here with the black cane square building. This is the mast crane. It can actually carry up to 20 tons. It was made in 1754. And this entire thing is without a single nail in it because it's held together with bricks and rope. That is so that it's more flexible, the entire building, to lift those giant masts that we would build our fleet with. The giant wooden ships would be on the other side of this hull in this big protected area. Can you see straight in front? We have a flag. That is our flag, of course. It's called Dannebro, and Dannebro is actually the oldest flag in the world. It came to us over 1,000 years ago when we went to Estonia to go to war. The Pope had sent the Danes to go to war in Palestine, and we did not like the idea of that because it's too warm and we like the cold. So we went to Estonia instead and started the war in Tallinn. And there, it wasn't going very great. We were actually losing the war. But then, wouldn't you know it, ladies and gents, the skies opened up and the flag fell from the heavens. Our bishop grabbed the flag, and when he held it high by the power of Jesus, we were victorious in battle. He held it high in 8 hours straight, and we were victorious in battle, and ever since, Dannebro has been our proud flag. It sits atop a C4, named Battery Sixtus, named after Christian VI, king at the time. In the 1700s, this was protecting us with cannons pointed at the Swedes, of course, but also as an alarm clock. We would have to signal when the ships outside would have to lower and heighten their flags. So we fired cannons in the morning and cannons in the evening, after when the sun sets. Problem with that idea: when you are living in the northern hemisphere like we are, sometimes the sun gets up at 4 in the morning. So you can imagine being woken by cannon fire every day, 4 in the morning. We did not like that very much, and due to a lot of noise complaints, we all agreed, maybe, let's just say, the sun gets up at 8 AM every day. Over to your right, you have something called Refelsøen, this big island over here with the warehouse. This used to be the biggest shipbuilding factory in the world in the 60s. It is today turned into a bit of a hipster paradise, where we do everything from festivals to food stalls and microbreweries, you guessed it. Down by the side, you can see Mikkeller written on one of these buildings. This is one of our internationally most known microbreweries. We also in here in the big warehouse hosted the Eurovision 2014 and this big festival space here. 3 weeks ago we hosted one of the biggest heavy metal festivals in all of Europe, Copenhagen. Can you see the crane on the right hand side? It's blue and it's white. That is a bungee jump crane. It is known for what happened in the early 2000s when we decided to do a marketing stunt in Denmark. Because we were new to bungee jumping, and how do you sell it to the Danes? Well, we decided to give you a free ticket if you jump out butt naked. Well, the problem with that idea is that the Danes love nothing more than being nude and free stuff. So within a few hours you had about 400 naked people stretching around the whole block, with so many scared angry old ladies calling the police, we had to shut it down within a few hours. This country is so small that turned into national news. Everyone was talking about these angry, scared old ladies not understanding what was going on with all these naked people. Now folks, in many countries around the world, we have wonders. We have about 7 of them in the world, the 7 wonders of the world. When you go to India, they have the Taj Mahal. When you go to Paris, they have the Eiffel Tower. When you go to United States, in New York, you have the Statue of Liberty. But you probably did not know that the 8th wonder of the world resides very here in Copenhagen, and you are about to witness it. Ladies, if your husband has high blood pressure, please take care of him. Please do not fall off the boat of sheer excitement. Ladies and gents, prepare your minds and your hearts for what you're about to witness. The most photographed woman in all of Scandinavia. Ladies and gentlemen, in Denmark, we have this. Wow. Look at the excited faces of all those tourists. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been the biggest cultural bridge between China and Denmark for the past 80 years. This is, of course, the Little Mermaid. In here, the Little Mermaid, result of romance with the theatre, because in 1913, the man who gave us probably the best beer in the world, Carlsberg, Carl Jacobsen, went to the Royal Theatre, and here he fell in love with the ballerina portraying the Little Mermaid from the Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. His idea of romance was to ask the woman to sit atop a stone naked for all the public to see for all of time. She was not a fan of that idea. So he had to ask the sculptor, who was a clever man, and asked his wife. So what you actually have today that many do not know is the head of the ballerina but the body of the sculptor's wife and the tail of whatever fish they were eating that day. This woman has been through a lot. We have had her head cut off twice by vandalists and her arm sawed off. People have put hijabs over her and they have covered her in paint many a time. But we keep putting her together and we thankfully found one of the heads. The other one, if anyone ever goes to Sweden, please ask them to give it back. Here.